Are you living on pause? I think we've all had those moments where we feel like nothing is moving forward in our lives. We're just getting through the day to day, doing the same stuff and not actually going in the direction we want to go. We only get about 4,000 weeks of being alive, and if we spend even one or two of those just eating, sleeping, working and browsing streaming services, it's very easy to start feeling like that life is slipping away from us. So in this video I'm going to talk about the two reasons I think most people end up on pause and what I did when I was stuck in both of them. And by the end, I hope you're going to feel like you can move forward today, even if it's only in a very small way that leads on to greater things. Okay, so firstly, I think there are basically two reasons why you might feel like you're living your life on pause mode. Maybe you're overwhelmed with stuff, which might be schoolwork, work, you're looking after a partner or a relative, and you've decided that everything except the bare necessities need to go on the back burner until things calm down a bit. But maybe this lasts longer than you were expecting it to. And then secondly, maybe you aren't finding the opportunities that you need to move forward in life, whether they're in work, life, romance, or whatever, and you just feel stuck and like things aren't moving in the direction you want them to. So the first one is kind of easier to deal with because it's clear what you want to do and the struggle is finding ways to do it. I've been here quite a few times and now I have a kind of three-part system for working my way through it. So the first thing to do is just choose one priority. If you've got a ton of stuff on, there's no point trying to juggle a bunch of other things. You might want to hit the gym, read more, do more writing, learn to play the piano, whatever, but you need to focus on one thing. And I think one of the best ways to do this is to write down all the things that you want to do and then consciously cross out the ones that you aren't going to focus on right now. You aren't going to ignore it forever. You can go back and reassess after 30 days, but for now, just focus on one thing. And so for me, when I'm really focused on work or family stuff and I have no time to push forward on mentally taxing projects, this is piano, because it's something I can do for like 5 or 10 minutes a day and feel like I'm making some forward progress. Which brings us to breaking it down. So the next thing to do is to break down the thing you're doing into the smallest possible unit of progress that you can make. That might be writing one line, doing a workout that only takes 10 minutes, or practicing piano scales or walking bass for like 5 minutes in the day. Basically whatever it takes to move yourself forward just a little bit. I've done this with stuff like walking bass on the piano, just putting the metronome up a couple of clicks a day. And you will be amazed by how much difference this makes. Spacing out your practice on a lot of things is actually the most efficient way to do this, so it's a lot better to find 5 minutes a day than an hour at the end of the week. And it's usually easier as well. Another option is the just do 1 minute strategy. If I really don't want to do the project I know I'm supposed to be doing, I'll tell myself I'll sit down, open the book, sit at the piano, get on the floor for a workout or whatever, and just do 1 minute. And if that's all I do, then that is still a success. And then finally, I aim to have no 0 days on whatever I'm doing. That means if it's 5 minutes before bedtime and I've still done nothing, I'll still crack open a book and get something read. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep the streak alive. And this stuff really does add up. If you wrote 100 words a day, you would write 70,000 words in 2 years, which is more than enough for a book. And that's about 5 minutes out of your day. And alright, I know what you're saying here. Maybe you don't want to write a book and you don't think learning the piano or doing a bunch of press-ups is going to fix your life. Maybe you feel actually stuck in your situation and things aren't changing for you. And this is much more difficult. I've been here and you really can't brute force your way out of it. But again, there are about 3 things I've done in the past that have helped me get out of this kind of pause mode. And the first one of them is to say yes more. I think this is honestly the simplest thing you can do to get yourself out of a rut. This is something I did in my 20s when I felt like I was stuck in a lot of ways. I was bad at relationships, I didn't really have what you would call a career, and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do in my life. And it really helped me to like meet people and change things around. So a great example of a person who brings this philosophy to life is a guy called Dave Cornthwaite, who I've talked to on a bunch of occasions. He basically quit his job as a graphic designer to become like an adventurer and record breaker, and he did a lot of that by saying yes to crazy stuff. So this doesn't mean saying yes to everything, but it does mean taking people up on the things that you would often turn down. So maybe somebody invites you to some kind of weird poetry recital or a weekend away camping, and it's the sort of thing you would normally turn down because you think you would be uncomfortable there. And instead of saying no, you say yes. So this doesn't mean saying yes to everything, and it definitely doesn't mean saying yes to dangerous things or like excessive amounts of work. But it does mean saying yes to things that are slightly outside your comfort zone. Because if you look back at your life, I'm going to guess that most of the good stuff in it, whether that's jobs, hobbies, or relationships, comes from something that you once said yes to. The second thing I would suggest is showing your work. This is a phrase that comes from a book that I really think is worth reading. You can get through the whole thing in an evening, and there's a ton of good advice in it. But one thing that I think is really relevant to unpausing your life is having a space online that's just yours. Doesn't matter if it's quite ugly, you can always fix that later. It's a place place to put your stuff up and talk about the things that you're passionate about. This isn't like the minutiae of your life. You're not putting up Instagram pictures of food or just your workouts. This is a place to show your actual work and the stuff you care about. Because this is the thing that can really create opportunities for you. Cleon says in the book that basically all of his books, art shows and speaking gigs, and a bunch of the important relationships in his life, go back to him posting on what was actually a very scrappy blog when he first started it. And I did something similar a few years ago with a blog called Live Hard, which I think you can still find online somewhere. And that ended up giving me all sorts of crazy opportunities, including letting me interview Andrew WK, who is still like a personal hero of mine, and who spoke to me very generously for about an hour about some stuff that I found like really useful and important. I will put a link in the show notes. Side note, now I've got a newsletter called Just Start where I share a lot of the same kind of thinking, and if you like this video so far, you would definitely like that, so maybe you should go and subscribe in the comments. But it's definitely valuable to have a space that's yours where you can post stuff. And the thing is, maybe people will look at it or maybe they won't, but your stuff is out there for anyone who's interested. If you're doing your thing and taking it seriously, you will be surprised by the connections that that can create. And that brings us to increase your luck surface area. So this is a concept that I came across pretty recently, created by a coder called Jason Roberts, but it describes a thing that I think a lot of successful people do kind of fairly naturally. And so the way Jason puts it, your luck surface area is directly proportional to the degree to which you do something you're passionate about combined with the total number of people to whom this is effectively communicated. Or to put it another way, when you're putting your energy into something interesting, other people are going to want to help. Maybe they'll want to help you or partner with you or just offer up an interesting bit of advice that you would never come across from your own perspective. Obviously, it helps if the thing you're working on is interesting, but it also helps if you can communicate it well. So whatever you're doing, sit down with a bit of paper and work out what the elevator pitch for it is. Like the 20-second, 2-line version of describing it, because some of those people are going to want to join in. And maybe the most powerful way to unpause your life is to combine all 6 of the ideas I've mentioned in this video. From using tiny habits and building a streak, to saying yes more and communicating your passion to other people. So communication is as important as anything else, and it's probably the thing I was bad at for the longest amount of time, kind of without realizing it. And if you want to learn how I fixed that, watch this video next.